It's 2 years since Afghanistan's President Hamid Karzai announced the beginning of the transition process, in which Afghan security forces would take lead responsibility for a number of areas within the country that contained around 25% of the population. Today, 87% of the country has transitioned to Afghan lead, with ISAF stepping back into a supporting role. Lieutenant General Nick Carter, the Deputy Commander of all ISAF forces in Afghanistan, is on his third tour of the country. Last time he was here, from 2009 to 2010, he commanded troops in the turbulent southern region during the height of the surge of US forces into the country, which peaked at a total of 137,000 troops.
As I left, we were still conducting population-centric counterinsurgency as prescribed by General McChrystal's plan. Of course, a month after I left, the Lisbon summit occurred and we had a 4-year deadline on the process of transition put in place. What we've seen, therefore, is a sort of emphasis in the Afghan mind of trying to get the capabilities that they need to be able to assume responsibility at the end of 2014.
General Carter says returning this year to the southern province of Kandahar, considered the birthplace of the Taliban, has revealed the progress some parts of the country have already made.
I went back to Kandahar for the first time a couple of days ago. It was rather gratifying to go back there, because what one discovered was a governor, who is still the same governor, who sits at a table now with line ministry representation around it, in the numbers of sort of 10 to 15 ministers. Now that's something that we barely conceived back in 2010.
General Carter says progress countrywide will also have the effect of forcing the Taliban, known for their brutally repressive regime, to change their political standpoint. What is the current state of the strength of the insurgency?
Women now expect to be educated. 40% of Afghans now own a mobile telephone. This is a country that's changed significantly, and therefore the Taliban, if it chooses to come back, and I'd put those terms in parenthesis, I think it acknowledges that it's got to come back in a different way. It cannot expect this country to accept its particular form of politics in the way that might have been the case 15 years ago.
This year has seen some tense moments between the Afghan government and ISAF. General Carter says the full handover of responsibility to Afghan lead will help ease friction.
That will bring with it a reasonable expectation that the way in which decisions are made in terms of the use of force and how that applies will be very much more Afghan decisions than there have been in the past. The beauty of transition is that so much of the responsibility for managing these contentious issues will become an Afghan responsibility, and rightly so, because it's their country.
Ruth Owen in Afghanistan for the NATO channel.